There is an expression, we don't see things as they are. We don't see people as they are. We see things, we see people as we are. Well, what that means is we do a lot of projection. We have a lot of biases, judgments, prejudices, expectations, resentments, preconceptions, misconceptions that all get layered into what we see and how we perceive things. Okay, there was a study that was done many years ago. A teacher was in a classroom and then lecturing, and then out of it, all of a sudden, somebody rushed in and grabbed the teacher's, purse or something and ran out. And then they asked the class to describe the person. And the person, the class, I don't know the exact thing, but some people said the person was white, some people said the person was black, some people said the person was a man, a woman, what the hair color was different. It was insane, but it proved the point that, perception is extremely subjective. And consequently, it's critical, since perception is extremely subjective, that we try to be as objective as we possibly can, that when we're looking at things and listening and reading stuff, that we try to see it objectively, not through the eyes of the past, not through the eyes of our fear, not through the eyes of our biases, but through the eyes of truth. We try to see objectively what is being said, and so we don't distort it. So we don't distort it. Because when we distort the truth, all bets are off. You can't have effective communication when you distort the truth. Now, these days, with all of the incredible, polarization, the extremism, extreme hatred for Trump, extreme hatred still for Hillary Clinton. There are so many people who would like to see Trump dead, impeached, go to jail, whatever. And there are a lot of people who would like to see Hillary Clinton, just shut up and go away, or go to jail, lock her up. There are people. It's not just them. We hate all sorts of people out there in the public eye, and consequently, when we hate them and we want them to go away and we want them to shut up, we want to influence others, and get on the bandwagon and get rid of these people. So what do? We see someone say something, and we don't do it on purpose, but we distort what they said to fit our agenda, and then we can attack them. Oh, they said this. They're evil. We see a tweet. Now I'm going to give you an example now of something recently that happened with a Trump tweet. And what's important is that you realize I'm going to bring it full circle. I'm going to bring it around to how this behavior that most people do to Trump, to Hillary Clinton, any number of people out there who are in the public eye who do stuff that are questionable or objectionable to our particular tastes or personal interests or whatever. We do it in our lives. We do it in our personal relationships. We're not selective. It's not like, oh, I'm going to misperceive and distort what someone said just in a political arena. But when I'm with my husband or wife or partner or whatever, friends, peers, then I'm going to be objective. I'm not going to let my bias. Of course, that doesn't happen. We're doing this all the time to everyone. So if you can realize that you're doing this, and you can wake up and stop doing this, your communication will be better. Your relationships will be better. If you just the facts, if you stick to the facts, not feelings, facts, and you look at exactly what is being said, exactly what was being written, and stick to that. And then if you want to demonize that, fine. But don't distort and then demonize based upon the distortion, because that's a lie. And it only causes more, in the case of Trump and everybody else, more polarization. I'm going to use a Trump example, not because I'm defending Trump or anything, just because I'm going to then bring it full circle to what we're doing in our personal lives. So, there was a tweet that Trump made about, he's so pissed off about, fake news, what he perceives as fake news, what he perceives as NBC or MSNBC or CNN or whatever, he perceives that they're not being objective, that they distort what he says, etc. So he did a tweet that said, this NBC, something, blah, 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 NBC, you know, when would it be, when do you think it would be, or would it be reasonable or to take away their license? Okay, all right. So then people got on the bandwagon and started calling him a fascist for threatening to take away NBC's license. Okay, now I take exception to that position, calling him a fascist based on that. I want to be clear that he may be a fascist, but I don't know his true heart. I've never met the guy, talked to the guy. I've never evaluated the guy. I don't know his true heart. I actually don't think he is, but the point, he may be. But if you want to crucify someone or attack someone or label someone, stick to the facts. Don't distort the facts. So in this case, people started saying he made a threat. He's a fascist. Okay. Look, he didn't make a threat. He posed a question. Well, you know, would it be reasonable to take away the licenses of media companies or TV networks that lie and distort facts and are basically propaganda machines? So now you might say, well, okay, literally it wasn't a threat, but figuratively, or it was a threat, or the implication that the threat is implicated. He implicated a threat. The point is, him saying, you got to make that distinction, because if the implication that it's an implied threat is an interpretation of yours. It's not based on facts. It may be based on, well, I see all the circumstantial evidence that he's done this with them and this with that group and this with that group, so therefore this is a threat. This is indeed a threat. But you have to say that. In my opinion, you can't say this was a threat when he just posed a question. Again, if you want to say, I believe this is an implied threat, I believe that he is a fascist, that he completely could make an attempt to shut down TV stations that disagree with him, you could say that, but you've got to say that, in my opinion, that it's an implied threat. That it's implied, and that you believe it's implied because of all this other data. But if you come across with, he made a threat, and he's a fascist, you're making a mistake. If you want to call him a fascist, use the right data, okay? And be fair about it. And that's what we're talking about. Be fair about it. But it makes communication more effective. It makes polarization less likely to happen. Because, again, in this one tweet, he posed a question. Now let's take it down to you and me, our relationships. We do this all the time. If you start looking, you know, I'm sure you've seen in your relationship, you get into a fight with somebody, an emotional fight, an argument with somebody, and they say, you said da 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 da, and you get pissed off and get crazy because you didn't say that. They misinterpreted what you said based upon their biases, based upon their expectations, based upon maybe things that you've done in the past. A lot of times in relationships, we just see through the eyes of the past, and someone could say the sky is blue, and we're convinced that they said the sky is green. Bad example, of course, but I'm sure you have been in fights where people have misrepresented what you said. You said something one way, and it was distorted so that they could make the case that you're wrong, you're bad, you're evil, you're selfish, you're inconsiderate, you're unloving, you owe them an apology. Okay, this stuff happens all the time. This destroys relationships. Okay, if you want your relationships to be authentic, if you want your relationships to thrive, if you want your relationships to be sustainable, if you want your relationships to be happy and loving, stick to the facts. If somebody listen and think before you speak, and listen and try to get rid of that lens of subjectivity, so that if somebody says something, take it literally, reflect it back. It sounds like you're saying ba 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 ba, and then they'll say, no, I was saying boo 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 boo. And then you go, oh, okay, now I'll respond to that. But if you say, it sounds like you're saying ba 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 ba, and they say, yeah, that's right, okay, then if you want to crucify them, fine. But you need to be in agreement about what you're actually talking about if you want to resolve conflicts. Okay? And this reflecting back technique and this validating what they said technique is very important to avoid miscommunication. Okay, so if you're in a fight and someone says something, make sure that you know what they said. Reflect it back. It sounds like you're calling me a liar because I said this or that, and they will say yes or no, and you can correct them, and you can respond then. But if you go off and running off of a distortion of what they said based upon your own feelings and not facts, you're going to have a lot of conflicts and a lot of unresolved conflicts, and relationships won't get better. There'll be a lot of resentment, hostility, grievances under the surface that'll bubble out and come out in all sorts of various ways. And sooner or later, the relationship will die. And you will go your separate ways, or it will die, and you'll still be hanging out together, not talking to each other or feeling so much contempt for each other, which is very sad. There are a lot of couples that are like that. Okay, so there it is. Validate what is being said. Try to not see through the eyes of your biases. Try to stick to facts and not feelings. Your relationships will get better. You'll feel better about yourself because you'll actually be somebody with greater integrity. Okay, when you distort the truth, even unintentionally, subconsciously, it still diminishes you. It diminishes you and your integrity in terms of somebody who speaks the truth. If you're distorting unintentionally, you need to stop doing that. All right.